So it is, again, a mother and son team. And the thing is, this is not like it's a 60-year-old mother with a 40-year-old son. It's not that. We're talking a son who's like 11 or 12 years old. I know the website says 11. I don't know if it's changed since then or not. He may still be 11. But I'm going to get them introduced to you. And again, it's a mother and son team. They've written a children's book. And it may be more than one. I'm not sure, but we'll let you know about it as we get going. But my authors this morning, on the Meet the Authors page, is Landon Ryan Clark, and he is a vivacious 11-year-old young man. He finds joy in basketball, video games, and exploring. Landon is a rising sixth grader, and this will be his second published work. All right, now go ahead, Landon. I hear you. And now we have his mom, Salina Barksdale-Clark, can be best described as a jack of all trades. She serves as a vital member of the community, a mother of three, the youngest of whom is Landon, an entrepreneur, and an amazing wife. All right, now go ahead. Salina is wonderful, and this is proven throughout this book, which is her first published work. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reading Circle microphone, Salina and Landon. Salina and Landon, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am wonderful, and even better now. I tell my guests this is each Saturday morning because I have them to call in at 6:55 a.m., so I'm sitting on pins and needles to see if that phone is going to light up at 6:55, and when it does, I know the show is going to go on, and I get an extra surge of energy, just knowing that I don't have to go to my plan B, so I am wonderful.
Excellent.
Well, as I was sharing with you, Salina, whenever I was looking at Salina's Facebook page, and you know how they have the little detail section on the left-hand side, and I'm kind of annoyed with Facebook lately. So in any event, I went to her Facebook page, and I saw in the detail section that she was originally hailed from Martinsville, Virginia. And I immediately got excited because Martinsville is not that far from where my father's family was from, South Boston, Virginia, in Halifax County. I spent many summers as a child, at Landon's age, down in South Boston, down in Halifax County, Virginia. I can see it right now as I talk about it. So Salina and I were talking about that, and there was a lot of Barksdales in that area. I mean, the Medleys and the Barksdales very close in that area. Matter of fact, they were neighbors. They were Barksdales that, I remember there was Harold Barksdale and a couple other kids that I knew that were Barksdales that my cousins grew up with, and I would see them when I went down in the summer. So it's a good possibility that, we're connected. Could be biologically, because I'm not sure if the Barksdales and the Medleys, there's some cousins up in there or what, but certainly we're connected in terms of geography. So I welcomed them here, and I was excited because Salina and Landon, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And as we, as the interview unfolds, I am quite sure you're going to agree it's a beautiful thing too. So I tell you what, we're going to tag team you two. Salina, I'll start with you in terms of, as I said when we talked a couple of minutes ago, my first question would be, was it your intent somewhere along the path to be an author?
Absolutely not. It's when you sort of brought that to me just a few moments ago, my mind instantly went to, as this journey has unfolded, I went back, my memory, and I talk quite often as we've been going through, it's almost our year since we first published this book, and it's been just a eye-opening but beautiful journey. But my grandmother, who I love both my grandmothers, but this one in particular, I saw daily, and we had something in common. We were both left-handed people, so in school I had a very hard time learning to write my name. She, of course, was very beneficial, understanding that we could not go with my excuse, I can't write my name, I can't. And she told me that words were so beautiful that we had to learn to write it. And as I think back on that, I really credit her for putting that in me. But it took many years, and it truly took Landon for me to realize this. So
Well, see, again, this is what I tell you. Now, I don't know what, various faith beliefs are, particularly when I have my guests on the show or the listening audience for that matter. But me, I'm a believer in God. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ.
Oh
I
yeah.
know for a fact there is a spirit that is beyond us. And I'm saying that based on what you just said about you being left-handed. And I just told you, there's a bunch of Barksdales and Medleys in that Halifax area. My father was left-handed.
Wow.
He was left-handed as well.
Wow.
So when you just said that, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, my father was. So I understand the plight of folks who are left-handed.
Yeah.
Now, you do know they say left-handed folks are the smartest folks in the world. You do know they say if you're left-handed, you're a genius.
You know. I take full credit. No, I'm kidding.
So, okay, so you didn't, and again, I've been doing this 21 years, and I can't tell you the percentage of authors that when I ask that question to, they say, no, that wasn't my intent. Matter of fact, I don't consider myself an author now. I say, what do you mean? You have a published book. You're an author.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider myself an author now. Yes, you are. You're an author. You're a professional author. You have a published book. All right, so it didn't start out. So Landon, I see this is his second work. So what about him? Did he catch the writing bug from you, or who inspired who? Landon, you can take that one if you want to.
It's a funny story, really. We had just signed up for a UNCG writing camp, and the whole basis was to make a book, and I did not know that. I thought it was just to write, I guess. And when I realized that they said it was published, and we didn't know how to get that book or where it was just lost. So I would consider this book the first one that I know I published.
Oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. So are you still 11 or did you turn 12? I mean, is this a new website and is current, or have you now changed to 12 or 13? You're still 11?
I am actually 12 now.
That's what I kind of figured. I know how websites go. So you're 12 now. Wow, I remember being 12 a long time ago. So you're a student, you're in school, so you probably know a little bit of math or some multiplication. I am just about 5 times your age. On August 17th, I will become 5 times your age. And the thing is, Landon, I remember very clearly as if I was sitting here watching a movie when I was 12. I played on the Little League baseball team. I played for Boys Club. We had a horrible record, 4 wins, 10 losses. So and I was a pitcher, so some of them losses were mine. And but I remember, and I'm looking at your picture here on the website, I remember being that age and that size. And so you're telling me you had a published work in school that you didn't realize was published, but then now you and Mom decide to do this book. And listening audience, the title of the book is Mommy, If You Will Just Hold My Hand. Am I saying it correctly?
Yes, we are very close. Mommy, if you just hold my hand.
That's it, Mommy, because I have your pictures up in front of me, not the book. So that's why so I'll pull the book up in a minute. But there it is, right there, right above. Mommy, if you just hold my hand. So Landon, let's go back to you a minute with the first published book when you were in the competition or whatever you were doing at school. Did you believe as you were writing it that it would be the one that would win the contest or be published?
I'm pretty sure. I felt very confident in my writing abilities at first, but I'm pretty sure everyone got published.
Yeah. It was more like UNCG offers a young writers camp.
Okay.
And it was back in 2018, I'm pretty sure. And so, Mommy dropped the ball on that. When they said, hey, come for the finale, I just thought it was just a normal summer camp. And so they were like, yes, he's here for a reading. And the bookstore was packed. I was like, what? But it was anyone that participated in the writers camp at UNCG as a summer program. That is sort of how it went. And it's remarkable that each one of them really get to walk away with their first published book. And that camp still exists. And actually, I guess it's okay. Yeah, it's okay and beautiful to say full circle moment. He has been asked to come back this summer to speak to the students who will participate this year and get to showcase his work in books. So we're very excited about that.
So, all right, first off, the fact that you're in a writer's camp, how many students or children were actually in that camp? Because that was a writer's camp, correct?
I would say it was a lot of people, and we had to split up into groups, so probably like 60 plus.
Okay, so well, you know what? I am thrilled to hear that, because where I'm going with this is because I know for a fact if it was a football or a basketball camp, it would be filled to the brim. I wasn't so sure if whether or not a writer's camp would attract the same amount of attention. And it sounds like what I'm hearing is it did, and I'm thrilled. I mean, my heart is like warmed just listening to the fact that a writer's camp would draw the same amount of attention that a basketball or a football or a baseball camp would. Now, the listening audience, I know they are so tired and bored of hearing me telling the same thing, but I don't know, Salina, if you know or not, if you read my bio or went on my website, but when I'm not doing radio, I am the principal of a school. Mm-hmm. And my school is an all male school. I have a whole school full of Landons. I don't have any females in my school other than the teaching staff. It is an all boys school, and it is a leadership school. And I am constantly trying to help my students, my boys, my Lions, because we're the YMLA Lions, my scholars, help them understand the importance of reading, writing, and speaking. And I'm listening to Landon, and I can see how articulate he is. And I'm not saying articulate from the standpoint of I'm surprised. I'm saying articulate from the standpoint is that's what I expect. And so the exact way that Landon is communicating right now as a 12 years old is what all of our 12-year-olds ought to be able to do. But the sad truth is they can't and don't.
Right.
So that's why I asked the question about kind of like what was the participation and attendance at a writer's camp in comparison to a football or baseball camp. And I am thrilled to hear that the writer's camp was just as popular. What steered you in that direction? I mean, are you in a home? Did you all always read or are you readers, or did you always write? How did you, because he's only 12 and my mom and my dad will tell you it starts in the home. Where did that all start? I mean, you have mom writing, you have son writing. Where did that all start?
Well, I think that, I never, ever say that I know that you hear my voice, but it is key to understand that his father is in the other room, I'm sure cheering us on and very pivotal to the upbringing. As you said in our intro, we have 3 children. Our oldest is 27, our middle, and she'll finish with her master's, woohoo, this year. And
I know that's right.
Our middle daughter will graduate from high school, and then we have Landon. So it was very important as parents. God truly blessed us with the best of the crop, and I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way. I'm saying that because he must have known just what this mama right here needed. They each had just a eager spirit, I guess, about them to do things in life that really surprised me. So Jamie and myself, we really try to hear what they have to say, and then we do everything in our power to move it along. And the beautiful piece to this is we found that we have such a beautiful village. I know that word is thrown around a lot, just like love, if you will. But our village is there, 10 toes, 10 fingers down. Whenever they have an interest in anything, they show up. Our daughters, they're still carving their way and doing it beautifully. And Landon, when I went to his book reading, I was like, wait a minute. It was interesting to hear, and I came home. His dad was on medical leave, so he could not attend that. But I came home, and we were like, wait a minute, he does have a gift. He actually wrote a book, and we were like laughing because we didn't expect that at the end. So needless to say, we've always read. I am a lover, again, of words and books, but a mom of three, I'm gonna admit I don't read as much as I should, but they do, and I love at his new school. We did ask the question. He did transfer to a middle school and a different school and curriculum this particular year. And the first thing I said, so you all didn't send home the 15 minutes reading log? And she said his English teacher this year was like, no, we don't do that. And I said, what? And she says, because we found that the kids focus more on getting to that 15 minutes than the words on the page. So we want them to just keep reading. So I said, okay, that makes sense. But to round out the question, I just think that Landon showed us that he could write. And again, UNCG sort of shined a light on that, and they're continuing to do so. We're just thankful for that.
Well, I think that is awesome. And I am grateful and thankful because you know what? That gives me hope. I have some stellar students in my school, but the majority of my students are 1 to 2 to 3 grade levels behind. So we are working to try, and the pandemic did not help with us going virtual. Mm-hmm. We are doing what we can to close the gap, and we are making strides and headways, but Landon sounds like he would be a student that would be either on grade level or above if he were in my school. And again, going back to my mom and dad, is that starts in the home. And I laughed as you were saying, "Oh, I don't read as much as this is not confession. It's not. You don't feel guilty or don't feel like what you should or should not do." The fact is, the matter is, you and your husband have set the tone and the environment. And I was joking about this is not confession. That was to laugh. But in any event, I'm saying that to say, you all have set the environment and you've planted the seeds for these things to happen. Yes, and so that, and again, dealing in an urban area, I don't get that all of the time. A lot of our kids are raising themselves, which is a challenge in and of itself. That doesn't sound like it is your 3 children's case, and thank God that it's not. However, it also is a connection between what you're putting in and what you're getting out. So the fact that you're getting a 12-year-old that is now interested in writing books and all that, that says a lot about you and your husband and how you're raising your family and everything else. Landon, let me tell you something while I have you here live, public, on the air. You need to be grateful to God for that, and don't you ever take that for granted or try to take advantage of that. And I'm going to give you that right here on the air. It'll be recorded. It'll be on our archives, whatever. Thank God. You must thank God for the parents and the home life that you have, because it is going to propel you along with God to anything that you want to be. And you already have a fantastic start. Most of my 12-year-olds are doing nothing but playing video games, if they're doing that. Most of my boys, what do you want to be? And that's why I got so excited about the Writers Camp, because the only thing I get is I'm going to be in the NFL. I'm going to be in the NBA. All right. So I'm looking for you. Well, you already got a book, but I'm looking to be looking at, if that's what you choose to do. I'm looking to be looking at Landon Ryan Clark the same way we see like Stephen King or one of these other big authors that are all over the world, that I'm looking for that for you as we go forth. And it could be now, it could be down the road, but you have a chance because you have a head start. So you did the first book, which was in school. And now how did you come up with this decision that, you know what, me and mommy or mommy and me, we going to write a book? Where'd that come from?
You got it.
It was one night and we were trying to figure out something. We have been really saying that we were going to do that for so long, and we always put it to the side. But while we were in quarantine, we were like, it's no better reason to not start, because we're in the house, not really doing anything. So we just thought it would be the perfect moment to try to figure this out like we said we would. And it was just one night. We wrote it in maybe 30 minutes, and we just escalated from there.
Well, escalated from there. All right. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. He's 12 years old and using words like escalated. All right. That's what I'm talking about in terms of building our vocabulary. And it's all connected. The reading, the writing, and the speaking are all connected. I just took in a student on Wednesday. It was his first day. And he's another one that has a very strong vocabulary. He's a young man. He's in the 4th grade, extremely strong. Same type dynamics. There was a lot of reading, speaking, and conversating in the household. As an educator, and Landon, I've been teaching children as early as your age, but I've been formally doing it in the educational system for 21 years now. September 2000 was whenever I left my corporate job and actually started my educational career. But there are studies that show there are certain points by age group children should be vocabulary-wise in terms of the number of words they ought to know based on their age. Right? Like at 3 years old, and too many of our children are nowhere close to that objective in their age categories. So the reason, and I tell kids all the time, the reason you get people that curse, that swear and curse and use profanity is because their vocabulary is so limited. That's the only words they know.
Absolutely.
All right. So the fact that you've set the tone, you've set the environment, you've planted the seeds for this to grow, and it's growing. Landon, what was it like for you now to work with Mom as you're putting this book together?
Be nice, Landon.
I mean, it was nice because, she's my mom. I grew up with her. So it would be a little different if I had, like, one of my friends because I know him, but not like I know my mom. So we all knew how to communicate with each other when we thought something wasn't right or when we thought we could change this or make this better. So it was easier, in a sense, to work with someone I've known for my entire life.
And in terms of coming up with the idea, the concept for the story, where did that come from? I mean, was it a collaboration in terms of the two of you came up with the storyline together, or did one of you have the idea and you all said, you know what, that's a good one, let's go with it? How did the thing develop? That's what I'm trying to get to, because like I said, I think maybe one other time since I've been doing this did I have a children's author that actually the child work with the parent. I think maybe, but it's been a long time ago. So how did that whole process work? Who came up with what and decided on where we were going? In short, how did the book develop?
I think I've learned over the years that I'm a very fast learner, and my mom sort of came up with the title, and that's all I really needed. And I just started writing from the heart, and it just happened.
Okay. So, all right. While I asked you that question, I went to see, the study that I was talking about in terms of words. It says, how many words should kids know? Most typical 5-year-olds have a vocabulary of about 10,000 words. Now, I'm telling you now, I know 5-year-olds that are nowhere close to that. When children are in school, they learn vocabulary at a rapid rate each year. I've seen a number of different statistics cited in literature. Nagy Scott 2000 report that children learn between 2,000 and 3,000 words per year. Others have cited that kids can learn up to 5,000 per year. So the reason I'm sharing this is that I'm listening to Landon, and I'm hearing his vocabulary. Most likely he's on track, or probably ahead of what the study or the research say that kids should have. And the reason I'm so happy sitting here listening to you is because I deal with so many kids whose vocabulary is nowhere close. And all of that comes, even as he was describing working with you, the words that he was using to describe that shows me that he has a rich vocabulary. All right. So that's Landon. You said, you could have been with a friend, but it was your mom. You've been with her all your life. Yes, you've been with her all your life. And so you got a chance to work with, and you wrote from your heart. What does that, when you say wrote from your heart, what do you mean?
I think it's more like once I figure something out, it's like it just comes out really. It's sort of hard to explain, but it just, once I figure out something I want to write about, I just think all the words in my head, and it just goes on a piece of paper, really. I guess it sounds a little more complex than what it seems like, but yeah, that's basically it.
Now, I said, he has a gift. I can't just do that.
Well, but you know what? That's what a gift is. That's
Right.
because there are some things that people can do. They were gifted that folks like say for example, when I was 8 years old, my
Mhm.
mom came in and it was just me and my sister, just two of us. When I was 8, and my mother always loved music, always wanted to play piano, never had the opportunity to take piano lessons. So she, in her
Mhm.
mind, always said, when I have kids, they're going to have the opportunity to take music lessons. My mother comes in to me and my sister and said, "Who wants to take piano lessons?" My sister was like, immediately, "Not I." I was the opposite and says, "Yes, I will. I will take the lessons." So I took piano lessons for 10 years, from 8 to 18. Where I'm going with this is there were folks who could play, we're talking about the gifts, who never took a
Mhm.
lesson in their life and could play
Mhm.
by ear no matter what tunes you hum. They could sit down at that piano and they would be able to get right in there with the singer. They would be able to play the tune or what have you. I've seen
Mhm.
children come out to be able to do it, and I've seen adults be able to do it. In my 10
Mhm.
years of taking lessons, I'm just beginning to get to that point now of
Yes.
being able to pick up if somebody else is singing. I can read music. I can read it up, down, left, right. I mean, you give me a music note or put a sheet music in front of me, I'll play the death out of it. But in terms of picking it up by ear, that was a struggle for me for a long time. But there were those who never could not read music, but they could
Mhm.
play by ear. And I know if you go to a church, there's some church musicians that no matter who started singing, they fall right in
Absolutely.
there behind them in the right key and everything. That's a gift. I'm
That's a gift.
sharing that long story to say there are folks like that with writing, with math, and in so many other disciplines that they don't
Yes.
necessarily have to be taught it. They're born with it.
Absolutely.
So what you're describing with Landon could be just that. I love the fact that you say it's a gift.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's Mommy, If You Just Hold My Hand. Now it's a children's book, so you're writing for a children's audience. The first thing is kind of like, what is the age group that you all have in
Mhm.
mind for the book?
That's an interesting question. When Amazon asked that question, we had a hard time because we saw it differently. But we say right now, even though zero is not an individual's number, perhaps that so many moms we found have that are currently with child have began reading this book. We've seen so many and heard so many testimonials from moms who are reading this book right now with all the other greats that have come way before us. But to frame it, we are saying between 2 to 8 years old, and it's just been a beautiful ride because we have some 70-year-olds that are loving it just as much. So
Well, that's the thing about books. We may, like, because I know, and like you said, Amazon will ask that question, so will the other publishing companies. Kind of like, what's your target market? What's the age group you're target? But the truth of the matter is, any age will usually enjoy a book. I mean, they're right now, matter of fact, one of the best teaching tools is a children's book, even for grown-ups.
absolutely,
In terms of telling
absolutely,
stories, in terms of getting points across, in terms of emphasizing points, a children's book in many instances is the best thing to use. So I get it that we all ask that question about target audience and age group. And so you're saying, around, roughly 2 years old to 8 years. Now, before you came on the air, I was talking about technology. Our
yes,
kids, our babies are born now knowing how to swipe devices. They know how to
yes,
swipe tablets. They know how to, swipe iPhones and phones and Samsungs or whatever. They come out the womb. So there's no reason why they should not come out learning how to read a book.
absolutely. It is so true. And that's one thing that this book really has done for us. It's helping us to get in those spaces. And Landon is really serving a dual purpose, if not more, because he does show up as author. But when the young children or adults even have him come in to do the readings and the sessions, kids' eyes are just beginning to just really open and say, wait a minute, I can do this too. And more than that, it is just about introducing them to and exposing them to something more. And also, they think it's sort of cool that someone their age is pulling this off and doing it pretty well. But again, it's coming only because of beautiful people such as yourself and our community that's breathing new life into our book each and every day. So.
Well, again, and a lot of, and the listening, those, and I thank God for my faithful listeners who listen every Saturday morning. And then for those who are new, because I saw on your Facebook page, you had posted the fact that you and Landon would be on here this morning. So I honestly hope that folks who've never listened to the show before are tuned in this morning because you two are on here. So a lot of my perspectives comes out of my experiences working in the school system or working with youth, period. When the show started 20-some years ago, at one point, it was on Friday mornings from 6 o'clock a.m. to 7:30 a.m. And a lot of my authors would actually be live in the studio because I would leave here and then go to my school to teach, and I taught language arts. So I would ask the author, what are you doing after the interview? Oh, nothing. I said, do me a favor. Come with me to my school. I would like my students to meet you. Salina, when I tell you, when I would hold the book up in my hand and their picture was on the back of it, and they connected, wait a minute, you're the one who wrote that and this is your book? And I thought kids didn't like reading. They would lose their minds. I mean, you would have thought it was Michael Jackson or some other celebrity that was standing in front of them. So I can only imagine what kids do now when Landon walks in. Whenever Landon says, yes, I'm one of the authors on this book.
Yes, absolutely. It is so beautiful to see. And I say that, to echo what you're saying. It's powerful even for me. I get really giddy when I think the author of Hidden Figures came to Guilford College several years ago, and our middle daughter Chase was like, me. And so we had a beautiful friend, Britta, take Chase to meet her, and she got to shake her hand. And also we're blessed to be around several of our mentors that our daughters are affiliated with, are authors. And so I sort of chuckled behind the scenes when you said that as an author, some of us don't even say that we're true authors, because I know these other beasts in the game that are just laying it out there in a way that I consider them true authors. But when I look, I don't consider myself really, but when I know that we are. But Landon, I just know, as he just admitted, he put pen to paper and truly wrote this. And I put the title to it, but he penned this book. So in some ways, it is just amazing. He had a book reading, I guess, about 2 weeks ago, and with pre-K students, and they were eyes wide open and ears wide open and so eager. They were just, no one had to tell them to listen. When he opened his mouth, they were just cued in, and he was facilitating about 63 students at the time. Not one time did a teacher have to say, pay attention or shh. And so they were just zoned in, and I can just imagine after he got to the Q&A part and began to ask them questions about who holds their hand and who do they want to become. And they were just, hands raised and spitting out those answers. And that is what, has been one of my beautiful parts of him letting me tag along to these readings. But it is about the next generation and what we can do to change the numbers. We're also seeing that so many little brown and black boys, don't have, what they need. And what's interesting to our family is our daughter, Chase, has a nonprofit that she has ran since she was 7 years old. It's called Chase's Chance. So we're in the middle of trying to, her whole focus is the youth, and what we can do to bridge the gap for them. So this year, a huge initiative is to get more books in children's hands, and I mean for them to take home. It was eye-opening for us. I work closely with her with her nonprofit, but what was eye-opening to us, we gave some books, and a little girl ran up to her. This was many years ago. She ran up to Chase. She was in the 3rd grade, and it was a Judy Blume book, if you know what I mean. And so
I do.
She said, Miss Miss Chase. And to imagine Chase is about her height, because she's small. She's small as well. And she says, I thank you. She said, here's your book, and Chase was like, no, that's for you all. And she said, I can have it? And she said, yes, you can have it. It's for you. And she says, what? And she stood there in amazement. And she went on to say, she said, she was in third grade. She said, this is my first book that I can have of my own. And Chase said, yes, it's yours. She says, I can't wait for my brother to read it. So we knew then we got to get busy and get some books that is suitable for boys and girls.
I love that story because I'm an avid reader. I have been reading since I was younger than Landon. And my love for reading started from observing my father. My father every day would get home like clockwork around 4:30. And he would get changed from, because he worked in the factory, he would get changed and he would go in the living room and he was always sitting up there reading, whether it was Ebony magazine, Jet magazine, a book or a newspaper or something. I saw that and then took on the same habit. Now, my sister and I are total opposites. We love each other famously, but we are exact opposites. She did not take on the reading bug thing. She's artistic, so she would rather see pictures than words. But that's where I started my love for reading from, and I'm going back to this, it starts in the home. And in many instances, we undersell reading because we think, kids just don't like to read, so we don't try to force it on them. We don't want to push it on them. But in actuality and reality, particularly at the younger ages, kids would be hungry for reading, but we're not providing the books to them. Because we've already made the assumption kids don't like to read, so I'm not going to bother with it.
That's right.
And so the fact that the little girl was that excited, because see, if you can catch children and that's why I'm glad you said 2 to 8. If you can catch children in those ages to develop a love for reading for the sake of reading, not that they have to do it for an assignment, not that they have to read. Because whenever I did my master's degree in education, my research project was on whether or not children would read more if they self-selected their books or if they were books that were assigned to them from school. And the research bared out exactly what I thought when I started the research, because we did the reading log. That's why I laughed when you said the reading logs. They had to keep reading logs for my research and everything. And clearly the research showed that kids would read longer and more for books that were on topics that they liked and self-selected in comparison to books that were assigned to them in school. If we can get kids to identify their interests and start reading books about their interests, we would get readers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are interested always in understanding how we can help, as I mentioned before, close that gap. It is so necessary. Our kids sometimes get a bad rap, but you said it several times. It does start at the home, in the home. But when we have some situations that it just doesn't exist for them,
correct,
then that's the thing that I love about what you're saying, what you're doing, what your expectations are. It's just really giving them a glimpse of who they can be. But it is up to us to try to fund those gaps and to meet educators, to meet parents, to meet community members. And I will say that we live here in North Carolina, and we have been surrounded by, it has been a challenge, and you may be getting to this and maybe not, but, as authors, we thought, hey, we could skip right on in the libraries.
Right. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it is not that. We have had to really fight. We have been blessed. Let me say that. We've been blessed. But we've really had to fight tooth and nail to get our book recognized, not for awards or not for that, but mainly to get it out there. It is a very low percentage that we're finding that you find children of color who can identify with people on the cover of many of these books.
You went right where I was going. Keep going. Because I was before the interview was out, I was going to go on your cover choice. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So it is very important to say that our minority-owned bookstores, Books and Crannies, Savor the Moment, Next Chapter out of Ben's Boys here, have welcomed us with open arms to keep our book visible. And when kids walk in to see themselves on that cover, they sell it. The cover sells it because they're like, that he looks like me. And instantly they draw that connection, and it's just a favorite story. But what we're offering also is we're asking individuals, people, to use your imagination. It is not, even though the title says, Mommy, if you just hold my hand, it is important. All families are made up differently. It is important. You can say, Auntie, if you hold my hand, or cousin or dad, if you hold my hand. This particular book, of course, is representative of so many things, and we could not have done that. Of course, you can go on Amazon and pull it and see it, but we're fighting hard as authors to get our books seen and to have them visible for students of all students, but for students who especially look like us. It is just that important.
And see, as I said, you went, and I've been posting the cover of that book. Matter of fact, just did it again, because those of you on my Facebook page, you're going to see it multiple times. But it is that important. And you went exactly where I was going to go at some point before the interview ended, because I'm looking at it and I see is an African-American mom and her son that's on the cover. Yeah. And you are absolutely right. Now, it has gotten better over the years, but it's nowhere close to where it needs to be in terms of children being able to see a book that has someone who looks like them on the cover. And we're in 2022, and yet that's still an issue. I can remember, and when I say this, I'm not saying this from a racist point of view. I'm saying it from the standpoint of I wanted to have my kids to have things that look like them. So, whenever I was buying toys, my daughters did not have a Caucasian doll, or if they did, it was very few. And I always purchased African American dolls. They were going to play with dolls that look like them. Now, I'm saying they couldn't have a Caucasian doll because they could always mix them together in terms of relations, but they were going to have in their toy boxes dolls and toys that reflected them, as well as books, just like you said on the cover. Matter of fact, for me, folks know my MO. They know if they get a card from me, it is going to either be a card that has African Americans on it that reflect us, or it'll be a general something like a flower or something like that. But I am not giving cards, and that's why when Hallmark came out with Mahogany, I was telling folks, you got to support that, because the first thing they will say is, see, we put a line out here just for you and nobody's buying it. I'm saying all that to say it's the same with you. Folks have to support this book to say, see, we put African Americans on the cover and no African Americans are buying it.
That's it. That's right. Absolutely right. And thank you for posting. But that the other fun part for us in working with our illustrator guy, we got to really, pay homage to several things. I'm looking at the cover that you just posted. But what's interesting is, when you're building your ideas, to write a book, one thing that we really had fun with was with the cover. If you'll notice on my sleeve there, I'm paying beautiful love to my 3 children that my husband and I are blessed to raise each and every day.
All right now.
And Landon are on both of my sleeves there. Landon is saluting his favorite player, Steph Curry, with the choice of color.
So there's subconscious, subliminal going on there. Maybe the audience won't know, but you all know.
Absolutely. The bird there that's right beside If You Hold My Hand is representative of my grandmother that we spoke about earlier in the interview. And it is just so beautiful every time you open up its little gems throughout the book, and you'll see the clouds that are framing right outside of behind me and right beside Landon are angel wings. And we're just really thankful for every angel that has gone on generationally before us, and we're just thankful for every bit of this, even you, for today. So.
Well, I am appreciative and thank you and thank God as well. And that is interesting analysis and depiction of what's going on in the cover, because I am, like you say, I am a wordsmith too, but I'm also now doing this and an avid reader, a cover smith as well. I often challenge or ask my guests what was going on in the cover. And you just did a wonderful job in terms of deciphering for us what was going on in your and Landon's mind when you put this together. So we have the angels, we have angel wings in there, you have the initials of your children on your sleeves, you have Steph Curry's colors, you have your grandmother. I mean, there's a whole lot that was going on, some thought that went on as you were putting the cover together. Now, I understand it's a children's book, and I want you to support and order the book. So I don't want them to tell you the entire story, but just kind of give the gist of what is Mommy If You Just Hold My Hand about. And again, don't give all of it away because I want to pique curiosity or whet appetites for them to go out and order the book. But kind of what is Mommy If You Just Hold My Hand about?
It is a fun, bright, charismatic book depiction of Landon and my relationship, and really it is about anyone's relationship. I keep pointing that out because we get notes every day. Can you write one for Dad or for Auntie or cousin? I'm like, hey, he still has this one thing we try to make sure of. He still has, other things that he's involved in heavily and pretty good at. So we try to balance everything. So we'll see where this journey takes us. But this book is really about a child being supported and what happens if they have someone to hold their hand and really charge them to dream and to become whatever it is they want to be. But at the very end, there's a sweet note that will probably surprise you. But most
don't tell what it is. Don't tell it.
I will not tell you what it is, but it is a sweet note, and I hope that everyone loves it as much as we do.
Well, you know what? There's an opportunity there. The fact that people are asking, Landon can actually have a series. I mean, he could have Mommy If You Just Hold My Hand. He could have Daddy. And I mean, the storylines, it still would be around support, but it would just have maybe a different storyline. So there's opportunity there because children's books usually are not that long. So there's an opportunity there that maybe you come up with a whole Hold My Hand series. I mean, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But
did it every week.
and again, because the concept, I don't know if Landon would be able to, because there's so many kids who don't have that support. I don't know how to write from that perspective to be encouraging either. But if you do take it out to different family members, because a lot of our kids are being raised by their grandparents. A lot of our kids are being raised by cousins and aunties, and like you just said, so there's definitely opportunity there, and but first off, the fact that he's writing about it means he appreciates, and I'm gonna keep on admonishing him to make sure he keeps appreciating, because everybody doesn't have it. You don't understand the blessing that you have, and we take it for granted because as a kid, I had that as well, and I thought every kid had it and didn't realize it, until later on that everybody's house wasn't this way. What? You mean you didn't grow up like this? I'm like, no. A lot of my friends that I played with, they were mostly single mom, single parent households, and I didn't even get at any thought. That wasn't something we just all knew we played together. But we were one of the maybe 2 or 3 families on my block that had mommy, daddy, kids, full families intact. The rest of them were single parents. And so, me and my sister took for granted that everyone lived this way, not realizing they didn't. So, Landon, I'm telling you, I know what I work with every day, that many of my kids are not blessed with what you're blessed with. So you don't take it for granted and use that to the maximum, the fact that you have that kind of support. Mommy, If You Just Hold My Hand. One of the things, and I told Landon earlier, in August, I will be 5 times his age. And one of the things I found that as I get older is I cry a lot easier now. And I know there's no shame in my game from that. The other morning I was driving into work, and this is going to this whole notion of support and Mommy Hold My Hand. I'm driving to work, and I get stopped by the school bus. The school bus puts the red lights on and the stop sign out, and I stopped there. And I see this father come out. I guess if it wasn't his father, it was the male figure in his life, but I'm assuming it was the father. And he walks the son out I see him come out the house, comes across the sidewalk. He looks back and forth in the street to make sure everyone has stopped. And he walks his son to the school bus door, and he gives him a hug. So right off the bat, I was touched to that. But then as he walks back across the street, he gets back to the door of the house, and the bus is about to pull off. He waves to his son on the bus. At that point, I lost it. I literally was in tears as I was driving to my school. Just from seeing that, it had touched me emotionally to see a father walk his son to the bus, give him a hug, because most kids don't want to be hugged, particularly not by dad and mom. Give his son a hug before he put him on that bus, and then he waved to him from the door as the bus was pulling off. And I was like, oh my God, if every child gets that. If every child would get that, we would have a much better society and a much better world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are so blessed, the kids are, to have that very same thing. And it makes a difference. Hands down, it makes a difference. So I understand why you understood what that meant in that moment. And what it will mean for that child. And you get a front row seat every single day.
For sure. You're absolutely right. Because even when I have parents dropping off at the school and I see them either give a hug or say, I love you, or have a good day or something like that, I will make sure I let them know, I love that. I like that. Don't you stop doing that.
Yes. That has to be affirmed because, so often it is, people say, maybe shrug it off or it's not a big deal. And I appreciate his father, and I truly appreciate, you speaking that, to him. We do try to make sure that they are aware. I think they have a keen set of eyes and a heart that is another gift that we try to do in this family. But it is so important. You celebrating that, because it is a big deal. Kids need to feel supported. They need to feel loved. And that's what this book is ultimately about. It is what it's about. If you read any page of the book, that is what it's about. Or if you look at the pictures, you'll know what it's about, even if you can't read the words yet. So.
Well, my secretary and I, we were talking about this yesterday. We were having this conversation. We were talking kind of sort of what we're talking about now. And one of the things we both agreed on was kids don't ask to be here. That's
my mama's favorite line.
We do. Someone creates us, whatever means, whatever the situation was. But kids, we do not ask to be here. So once we have been created and we are here, we do deserve that support. And so many of our kids don't get it.
Yeah.
Because that's what the upshot of the conversation was. It was the whole notion of dad just saying, look, I'm out. I ain't being bothered with the kid no more. I said, what? They're like, no. We don't get that option to say I'm out. I won't be. But now it's one thing between the two adults if they choose not to interact anymore. But if you have children together, you can never leave those kids.
That's right.
All right. So, I was talking to a student and his mom the other day, and I shared with the young man. I said, now look, because the mother was saying, her and dad was going through a separation, so forth. So I said, I get it. Trust me, I understand it. I relate totally. But what I told the little boy was, I said, now look, mommy and daddy sadly do get the option to say they are no longer boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but they never get the option to say they're not your dad or your mom, because that cannot change. You are their son. You are her son. You are his son. Nothing can change that. Now, they could choose not to be husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, but they cannot choose not to be daddy or mommy to you. And this was my my little the young man that we took in the other day that has the really strong vocabulary, and he followed me right to exactly what I was saying. So that's what brought up that conversation of children don't ask to be here. Kids don't ask to be here. And when we do bring them here, it is up to us to provide them with everything that they need.
Yes. if you can just get that on a billboard, I would love it. I would love it.
In my school, they know I have no filter, because the way the school is set up is a leadership school and the predominant group that I serve is African American, followed closely by Hispanic. But that's the makeup of my building, is Hispanic boys, African American boys. And I'm very real with them in terms of the expectation of what we're expecting out of them as grown men. And there's, without a doubt, I show, look, we are not developing anybody that's going to go out here and make a bunch of babies that they're not going to support. We're very clear on that with them at a young age. My school goes from 3rd to 8th. They go from grade 3 to grade 8. And we're very clear. We're not developing men that are going to go out there and make a whole bunch of babies that they're going to refuse to support. We're very clear on that. And I, like I said, I have no filter, and I'm very transparent with them. That's not what we're developing here.
Mm-hmm. And that's what, we need to reiterate, because it's so much more. It is so much more in this world to see, so much more in this world to do, so much more in this world to accomplish. And it really starts, I feel, with love.
Correct.
Love of yourself. And once we can guide a child, that once they understand who they are, they will then understand who they are. And it is a state of emergency.
Yes, it
I
is.
hear it in your voice. I hear it in the work we do every day. I hear it in the sale of our book when we were interviewed last summer by the local news here. One of the things that he kept reiterating for his own home was, and he has a full loving family, but he had 2 boys, and he stared at the book and he was like, my boys will see themselves. And so the other day, they had to one of them was out of school, and so he posted a picture of him hugging his son. And what I captured, what I noticed, of course I noticed, they were hugging. The book was laying on the little boy's chest, and the book, the words of the post was about loving his son and spending time. But I screamed a little bit because they were holding our book, and but it just goes hand in hand. Every day that you're present for them, every day that, we show up so that they can see themselves in a different light, it's all connected. So we are just honored in a way to even, I know the interview was about our book, but we're getting just as much from you as well. It is just amazing, and we honor and support and certainly celebrate all that you're doing as well.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to come right back, but I just need to let folks know what and who they're listening to, and then we'll wrap up after that. But this has been so enlightening and encouraging and inspiring for me as well.
WPSC 88.7 FM, Wayne, New Jersey.
Part of the William Patterson Broadcast Network.
Freeze. Broadcasting from Hamilton Hall,
The Marconi Award-winning college radio station of the year.
Jersey's home for alt hip-hop.
Brave New Radio.
A tune-in and Radio FX station.
All right, one of the reasons we're called Brave New Radio is because we can go where many of the commercial stations can't go. I can have conversations like this and not worry about whether sponsors are going to drop their advertising or what have you. I don't have that issue, and that's why we're called Brave New Radio. But my guest this morning is Salina and Landon, and we've been talking about their children's book, Mommy, If You Just Hold My Hand, which is really all about love and support of parents and children and the home environment. So we're getting down to the end of the interview. I've had a blast talking to both Salina. Now, folks, Landon is only 12. And so when folks start telling me, well, they can't do that because they're too young. Don't give me that. Oh, well, no, they shouldn't be. No, they can do. They can do. Just because Landon is 12, because Landon's been writing now since he was, 9 or 10. And so now he's 12. He's got a published book along with his mom. So that's why I'm not one for taking a lot of excuses from folks when they're trying to tell me what children can or cannot do. Children will do if you push them. Children will do if you light the way. Children will do if you plant the seed. Children will do if you give them the right environment. Children will and can do. So, and this is just another testimony of that. And I'm so glad because in terms of there's so much negativity going on in the world. This interview this morning is a bright light. This interview this morning was a light. I had an interview about a month ago now. Is a young man. His name is Steve Pemberton. He wrote a book. His first book was called A Chance in the World, which was about his life as a foster child growing up. They did a movie. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to watch that movie. If you have Amazon Prime or Netflix, any of those, the title of the movie is the same as the book. A Chance in the World. I had no idea when I did that interview a month ago I would get as much mileage out of it at my school because I showed my boys the film. And they've seen video clips of Mr. Pemberton being interviewed on the Today Show and so forth and so on. They really connected with it. I know my third and fourth graders are going to connect with Mommy if you just hold my hand. So I am going to have to get some copies of it so that I can give to my third and fourth graders because I know they will connect with that. And I'm looking to get the same mileage out of this interview that I got out of the Steve Pemberton interview in terms of the school. Because what I do is the same way I talk about me being an educator here on the air is the same way in the school I talk about the guests that I've met and what they're doing in the book world. So for me, it's all connected. So for sure, I am going to be talking about Landon. Matter of fact, and I don't know, because I know Landon is in school the same time we're in school. But if there was a way I could get Landon on Zoom, I'd do it. That's the one thing, I heard him say with the pandemic that you all use that time wisely to put the book together. But the one thing the pandemic has also done is shown us how we don't have to travel if we don't want to. So if I could get Landon on Zoom one day to talk to my kids, they would be just as amazed seeing him on camera as they would if he was standing right in front of them.
Absolutely. That could be easily arranged. His English teacher is a gem. So she's made accommodations.
Well, I tell you, it's back like in my day, and like I told you, I'm going to be 5 times Landon's age shortly. In my day, we had this thing called pen pals. But there is nothing that technologically, I don't think, could stop Landon's English class from being on camera with Mike's school. I mean, we can kind of do that school-to-school thing. I'm going to be in touch with you about that and see if we can make that happen before June.
Cannot wait.
And because I know, first off, my boys would be fascinated. And secondly, the fact that I would be able to put Landon and say, he's 12 and he's already written a book.
Yeah.
And put the book up there. Or if they get it and it's in their hands, oh my goodness, the impact would be off the charts.
Yeah.
So I will definitely be in touch with you to see if we can make that happen. Landon, you listening?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So, that's the other thing, and because I'm getting ready to close the interview down. But you were saying about whenever he went to the school of the book signings, you said it was like 60 or 63 kids, something like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, I teach at the college level, and the subject that I teach is public speaking. Everything I do is connected, but I teach public speaking. And there are folks, Salina and Landon, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, the average person would literally, not figuratively, and I don't understand this, I really don't, would literally rather die than speak in front of people.
Yeah.
You could put me in front of, you all are down in North Carolina, you could be, they're the Jaguars, right? That's your football team down there? Is the Jaguars or the Panthers? Which one? Oh, they're the Carolina Panthers. Jaguars is Florida. All right, Carolina Panthers. You could put me down there in Carolina Panthers in their stadium full of folks, down there with Cam Newton or whomever. And it would not faze me. I would not care if that stadium where the Panthers play was full of folks and I had to stand in the middle of it and talk. It would not faze me. But there are folks who would not speak in front of 5 people. They would rather die. And I'm hearing that you at 12 are giving presentations to folks. Okay?
Absolutely.
You're starting now getting accustomed to speaking in front of people. One of the number one skills that corporations and companies are looking for now are people who can present and speak and represent. That's why most colleges have now made public speaking a required course, because the companies were going back to the colleges saying, you're sending me folks who can't even talk. So they put public speaking. Now the colleges said, okay, we're going to make public speaking a required course. So Landon already is ahead of the game because he's accustomed to speaking in front of audiences.
Yes. Yes.
So,
And yes.
so see again, Landon, I'm telling you, you got a leg up. You got a head start. You're far down the chain there. Keep it going. Keep building on it. All right. We're down to the last part of the interview, and this is what I do. I'm gonna turn the mic off, and both you, Landon, and Salina, you get a chance to promote. You can promote book signings, where the book is, websites, how to get in touch with you. You can promote anything with the exception of a cost. Now, they can get that from your website, because I'm looking at what the pre-order cost was. But anything with the exception of a dollar amount, you can shout folks out. If you want to shout your illustrator out, you want to shout your husband out, you want to shout your kids out, you want to shout anybody you want to shout out, you have the opportunity to shout out in the next couple of minutes or so. I'm going to turn the mic off. And like I said, anything with the exception of the dollar amount.
Okay.
It's yours. Go.
Oh, man, where do we start? This has been such an honor to be a part of this. Our cousin, Denise Barksdale, told us about you and your wonderful show. So hats off to her. This has been a community event. This book has been welcomed. It's been received, and we are truly honored. We're truly thankful. And to each and every person, yes, you're right. I do need to start backwards, because a lot of times we are busy out in the community trying to let other people know about it. So this is huge to be able to present it here this morning. We thank you for that. Secondly, thankful for my family, which I always say, when you see myself, you should see my husband, and when you all see him, you should see me. So just because my name is there, he is fully represented throughout this journey and this book as well. Our three loves, our three heartbeats, Tiaja, Chase, and of course Landon, who has gone on this beautiful journey with me. We truly appreciate it. I can't say enough how we're going to continue to connect and stress upon each other to love each other. Yes, support our book, but support any book. Really, we gotta work together to get the love of reading back for our students. Our particular book, however, is sold on the shelves of Books and Crannies in Martinsville, Virginia. So we're across the state line. We're thankful for that. We're here in Greensboro, North Carolina, on 2 shelves, Savor the Moment Bakery, as well as Next Chapter Bookstore, which is located in Ben's Boys. And just for so many of you just hitting the share button, we are truly thankful. We do have a website. Of course, you can go to Amazon. You can go to Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Target.com. Primarily, we are just out here loving it every second of the day that we get to spend it with each other. That's another benefit. But we are truly thankful to our school families, church families, and just our families, period. You know who you are. We love you. Y'all who are texting me right now saying, great interview, thank you, and I love you so much. And that's all I got. I'm going to hand it over to Landon to close this out really quickly.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here today, and thank everyone who has gotten me to this position in life. Thank you to all the people who have supported me to get here. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. And one quick note. Thank you. Special thank you to Dr. Alicia and Dr. Hayes. They know who they are. They hold a very special place with this book, and so many other of my women's circle that just push us forward. We love you, and thank you so much.
Well, I tell you what, for those who chose not to rise with us early and catch the show live, they are going to have the opportunity to catch it in my YouTube channel on the archives. I will send you a copy of that link, and I'm going to send you a copy of the MP3 link, and you can share it any way you choose, as it will be yours. Even though it's my show, but if you want to use it for promotion, you want to put it on your website, you want to email it out to folks, you do whatever you want to do with it to get the word out. All right. And so I will get that to you before the end of the day, because I have your direct email. I'm not going through, like many of my guests, I'm going through their publicists. But for you, I have your direct email address. So I will email it to you directly before the night is out. And then I will get in touch with you to see how I can get Landon up on our Promethean board on the big screen, so we can Zoom with each other and have my kids see him and him see my kids. So I don't know if on Zoom, he should be able to see out. If we have a camera on there, he should be able to see out. So we can interact way up here in Paterson, New Jersey. Down there from Greensboro, North Carolina to Paterson, New Jersey. We'll be able to interact there. Like I said, in my day, it was a pen pal, but in these days, it's Zoom or either Google Classroom or what have you. But we're going to make that happen. Before June, we're going to make that happen. I don't know, even if I have to get in touch with his ELA teacher and email her or the principal, if I have to talk principal to principal, I'll do that for his school if that's what needs to be done. Marine to Marine, principal to principal, whatever we need to do. But we're going to make that happen, because I do want my students to see what is possible. And the fact that Landon would be in front of them would show them a living testimony of what's possible. I thank the both of you two so much. Like I said, a lot of my interviews over the last few months have been dealing with mental health and the negative issues that's going on in the world. This one was a bright spot because we were dealing with all positivity, everything positive. So I thank you all so much for joining me this morning. And trust me when I tell you, Salina, I will be in touch.
Thank you. We can't wait. Thank you so much.
You all have a wonderfully blessed day, weekend, and weekend for the rest of the days, but we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All
have
right.
a great day.
Thanks, you too. Take care now.